I'm Chris Avena from American Outdoor News for another episode. And if you have not subscribed, hit that subscribe button now. Today, we're here with Al Parkinson of Bajio Sunglasses. Al, thanks for taking the time to speak to us today.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Really appreciate it.
Well, it is that time of year. Summer's coming, and everybody's styling new shades.
Right. I'm stock up for the summer for sure. It's a busy time of the year for us. And, um, I think a lot of people are looking at their tackle box and, looking at their closet and saying, I got all my gear for the season. And so we get a lot of orders of people trying to restock, which is great.
So was fishing behind the premise of starting Bajio?
Yeah, for sure. Our glasses, I would say, are more of a tool than a fashion statement, although you know, a lot of things that used to be tools are now fashion statements. It's cool to be
Yeah.
kind of an outdoors fishing person or hunter. Um, but yeah, the my wife and I love fishing and love fly fishing in places like the Bahamas and a lot of flats fishing for tarpon and permit and bonefish and barracudas and all that stuff. It's you find a place that just feels like home to you,
Yeah.
and you just want to keep coming back wherever that might be. And that was sort of our zone, our place, and so we wanted to build glasses that made it easier to see fish and made those beautiful colors look even more beautiful. And we named it after, that's what we named it after. We named it after the shallows. It's a Mexican word, Bajio, that means the shallows. And so we named it after the places in the world we love the most and love to fish the most.
Nice. So they're polarized, they're geared towards the outdoors. What a great product, especially, we are an outdoor magazine and American Outdoor News is sponsoring two fishing trips this summer. So
Nice.
would be a great addition at a Montauk Point, probably the most premier fishing spot on the East Coast.
Yeah, I think it's all about the lens. And I remember being down in the Keys one time and uh I don't know. Usually don't do like the tourist thing, but we were on some like snorkeling boat, and I was looking around at all the people sitting on the snorkeling boat, and a lot of them didn't even have sunglasses on, and then a lot of them had really cheap sunglasses. And I knew looking at the water that we were seeing, the coral reefs underneath the water and all the different colors, it was just spectacular. And then we'd take our glasses off, and all you could see was the reflection on top of the water. I'm like, wow, that's what these people are seeing. They're not even seeing how incredible everything really is because they don't have the right sunglasses on. And we really see that in a lot of places all over the world. Like we'll go to some remote town in Mexico and go out fishing with the locals, and they live there and they don't have really nice sunglasses. And so we'll let them try our glasses on, and some of them start crying. They're like, oh my God, I had no idea I lived in such a beautiful place.
Things
Um,
they were missing.
Things they were missing. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I've been to the Keys. I love the Keys, but I've never been fishing in the Keys.
Oh, well, we need to get you down there, man. It'll change your life.
Are you located close to the Keys?
We're in Florida in a little town called New Smyrna Beach, just south of Daytona.
Okay.
And so it's a few hours from the Keys, but we drive down there, for tournaments and, just vacation and stuff like that. And then, Florida is just, I'd say, the fishing capital of the country, the state, because we're surrounded, three sides by
Yeah.
water. And I mean, everything is here. So even in New Smyrna Beach, where we are, we have flats fishing on the Mosquito Lagoon, and then we have offshore fishing, surf fishing, everything. So all right here.
Well, one of the things that I do like about your brand is that they are completely made in the USA.
They are. I mean, we have to import parts from around the world because unfortunately the best parts are no longer made here in the United States. And My dream would be, wow, if we could make every single part in the United States, wouldn't that be cool? Uh, but we do assemble everything. We cut the lenses. They come in and just like a round puck. And so we carve the lenses, put them into the frames, do all the quality control, ship them from here. If you ever have any trouble, we'll repair them here. So yeah, we do all of that right here in New Smyrna. And I don't know, I just like it. I like being able to make our own stuff instead of just importing it, from somewhere else. It just
Yeah, a
keep
lot of them are made overseas. It's good to know that these are right here in our own backyard. What inspired you to start your own brand? It's a pretty competitive um, industry.
it is, I think honestly, I worked at Costa Sunglasses
Oh,
for
sure.
for many years, 15 years, and I was I was in charge of all the brand and e-commerce and bunch of stuff. And we took that brand from a $6 or $7 million brand local in Florida to a $165 million brand. And then it was bought by Luxottica, which is an Essilor. Essilor's French, Luxottica is Italian. And, they came and just shut the whole thing down in one day, fired 300 people. I had
Wow.
I had left before that because I could sort of see the writing on the wall, um, and knew that things were changed. I didn't want to be part of the big corporation anymore. So I, Marguerite and I left and went out to Montana and stayed out there for a couple of years and worked for Sims, which is a fishing company out there, and did that for a couple of years. Then it was bought by a private equity firm as well. And they didn't really want to do the cause-based kind of stuff. Like we really like to help the environment with our company.
Yeah.
So once the money guys get hold of something, they don't really care about that. They'll pay it lip service, but they don't really care. So we left, went, and it was 35 below zero out there in the wintertime. It was really cold. So we came back to the East Coast and to Charleston. Kind of same thing happened. I worked for Hook for a year, and that was a private equity deal. That didn't work out. Um, so we were sitting there in Charleston, and I'm like, babe, I think if we want to do the kind of company we want to do, we got to start our own company. We can't be working for these other people who don't have the same vision that we do. So basically, I would say I was unemployable, and so I had no choice but to start my own company. And so that's basically what we did. And she was like, "Well, we don't have any money. Like, how are you going to fund this thing?" I said, "Well, I think we have to go out and raise money." And she goes, "Well, you don't know how to do that." So, long story short, we figured it all out, went out and raised some money, and it was right in the middle of COVID. So that created some complications. But
Yeah.
we eventually got it off the ground, and um, I've been enjoying the success. It's running a small business is really hard, especially with when the economy's not cooperating and COVID's not cooperating and all that kind of stuff. But it's a battle every day. But we fought through it, and we'll be profitable this year. And uh, I like to think we're making the big guys' life uh, kind of difficult. We're sort of kicking their butt right now, which is pretty fun.
It's gratifying to own your own business, but at the same time, it's a pain in the ass, man.
It is. It is. You are right.
I had an argument this morning about getting a raise. I'm screaming at my boss. I needed a raise, and my reflection in the mirror just kind of laughed at me.
Well, I've had that same conversation many times. That's great.
So, what type of fishing do you prefer? Do you prefer um, deep sea, saltwater fishing, or uh, lake and stream like up in Montana? Montana's spectacular in the summertime, but in the wintertime, you don't want to be there.
No, you don't. We love it all. Definitely the saltwater flats fishing is our favorite. With mean, it's basically hunting. We love to hunt fish. So, trolling a bait behind a boat is not really our thing. But if we can be like, going cruising close to shore in the flats and looking through the water to see a fish and then cast to it, that's really what we love to do the most.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So yeah, we just like to hunt and be on the move all the time and have to, just think through the environment and like where are the fish going to be at this time of day with this tide, you know, all the factors that go into play to help where that fish is going to be, are super. It makes it interesting. That's what we love to do.
So your glasses are obviously more functional than most,
Mm.
um, not just fashionable. As I'm a huge sunglass collector. Depends on my mood for the day. But I mean, starting your own company in a competitive industry like this, what kind of obstacles, aside from financial, did you have to overcome to get started?
Well, I guess the way I think about it is the first thing you have to do in terms of overcoming an obstacle is convince yourself that it's something that you want to do, that you can do,
Hmm.
and that you're gonna do. So, I found over the years, I thought about it a lot, and I know other people who have talked about it, thought about it, but to actually take the step to do it, you got to convince yourself. Then you have to convince your wife uh, that it's going to be okay. Luckily, in my case, we're partners in this thing, so she has a lot of talent to bring to it as well. And then you've got to convince some other people to join the team, and then you've got to convince investors to write you a check, give you money, and
Hmm.
money that they've worked hard for. And
Sure.
then you've got to convince retailers to put your product in their stores. And then kind of the last step is you got to convince consumers to actually buy it because you've gone through that whole process, convinced all those people, you put it out there and nobody buys it, then it's all for nothing, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think, there are a lot of obstacles along the way, and we probably have had more than our fair share just because, with COVID, everything got shut down, and then it opened back up, and then a shipping container goes from 5,000 to $35,000. The
Yeah.
ports are full, um, and it's just kind of one thing after another. The economy is, on again, off again. Inflation comes up, and you know, it seems like there's always obstacles to overcome. Um, but after a while, you just are like, okay, what you got for me next? And we're
Have
gonna
uh, have the
bring it on,
tariffs have the
bring it on.
tariffs hurt you at all?
Yeah, now we got tariffs that we're dealing with. Not as much as some because we do so much of the work here in the United States, and we don't really deal with China very much. Uh, but we get parts from, you know, basically every continent. We get some from Africa of all places. We get some from
Right.
Italy. We get some from Taiwan, and so all of those companies, they've got 10% tariffs on them, and so yeah, I mean that our cost goes up 10%. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, it looks like that might be coming to some sort of resolution for good, bad, or indifferent. It looks like
Yeah,
it'll be resolved.
I hope so. The biggest thing is just not knowing. And the
Yeah.
amount of time that we have spent, going up and down and running all the scenarios and the numbers and trying to figure out, talking to all the factories that we work with and trying to figure out like, can they help share the pain? Can we
Hmm.
come up with creative solutions? Blah blah blah. It is it has spent it has just taken a lot of time, a lot of energy. If we knew, if the government just said, look, we're going to implement this tax in 12 months. So you've got 12 months to get ready for it. No problem. We can handle that. But one day it's on, one day it's off, all that kind of chaos. I think it makes it hard. And especially for small businesses, I've talked to a lot of other small business owners, and, we don't have the leverage like Apple Computer does to go to Washington and
Hmm.
like, look, we need to pass on this because we're too big and important. And then they get a concession. Well, there's nobody advocating for the small guy.
Yeah.
There's nobody advocating for us up there. I mean, we have trade associations and stuff, but really we're kind of on our own. So yeah, the uncertainty more than anything, I think, is what gets us.
Well, I think most of the outdoor industry is in a similar situation. I mean, uh, camo clothing and whatnot's made in China or Vietnam, and you get rangefinders from China and glass from Japan or Germany. So I think overall it's affected the industry,
Yeah,
but hopefully that'll be changing soon.
yeah,
Keep our fingers crossed and go from there.
that's all we can do. We just take it as it comes, right? And deal with
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
So what sets Baeho apart from your competitors?
I think there's a couple of things. You'd mentioned earlier that people like to know the company behind the product that they're buying. And I think when they lift up the curtain and look at us, they see that we're independent. We own it ourselves. We're not owned by some big company.
Hmm.
And so we can make our own decisions. And sometimes that means talking to a customer for an hour on the phone, as opposed to having to get off because the clock is ticking and it's not profitable to do that. Sometimes it means, hey, a product isn't perfect. We're going to send it back to the drawing board before we launch it, even though there's a lot of pressure to launch it. So we can make our own decisions, being independent, and and we think that makes a difference. Being a U.S. based company and having our own manufacturing right here in Florida, uh, that makes us different. We can be very flexible and we can make stuff to order. So we can build to order a product if the store doesn't have it or we don't have it on our website. We can build it to order in 24 to 48 hours, and we'll ship it usually within 48 hours.
Can
So
you make prescription glasses?
we can. That takes a little bit longer. That's more like a week to 2 weeks for prescription. We also have readers that have a little sunglass reader in the bottom for tying knots and stuff like that.
Oh,
Uh, but but no, I think who we are as a company is a differentiator, and then our lenses, I would say, from a product standpoint, are the biggest differentiator. Our lens technology is really special, and the visual experience that you have. I mean, the way that we sell our glasses, if you're a retailer, he just says, here, take these Kosas, take these Smith, take these Maui's, take the Bajio, walk outside, put them on, come back and tell me which ones you like the best. Almost every time they come back, wow, these things are incredible, Bajio. And that's how they sell them. So the, we take out all the blue light, all the yellow light, and it makes everything super crisp and clear.
yeah.
And, um, and then we have a lot of layers in there that are built for very specific conditions. So we have lenses that are for low light, like cloudy days or early morning, dusk situations. And then we have stuff for really bright sun for offshore, really bright sun for inshore, lakes and rivers. So each lens is crafted for that specific purpose. And, that makes us different as well.
So, now, so what inspires your designs? And they're really nice looking glasses. What inspires that?
It's sort of a group effort. We have a guy who is, heads up our product design. Denny is his name, and we've worked with Denny for years, and he's he's just a super talented guy and has a couple of guys on his team. So they have ideas, they look at, hey, what's trending? How can we do a different take on it? Uh, you know, they just get inspired by looking at other brands, by looking at magazines, by, just envisioning what they like or want to build. And then Marguerite and I will do the same thing on our end. And we also want to fill out, we have sort of a grid, and you fill out, you want the sizes that'll fit everybody. So, we have extra large, large, medium, small. Then you want male and female. You want more conservative versus more, less conservative. And so you take all those factors into play and then, come up with ideas. They sketch them up by hand and like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And then they'll, once we sort of agree on direction for the styles, then they'll go into the computer and a CAD and they'll do all these incredibly detailed 3D drawings of everything. Then we'll print out like on a 3D printer an actual pair of sunglasses based on that drawing. Then we'll
Oh,
all get try them on and see how we like them, how they fit, make adjustments to the drawings. Then we build molds and then we start making it. So it's just from something in a gleam in your eye to a sketch all the way to finished product. We handle all that.
3D printing. Amazing, isn't
It
it?
is.
It
I think
really
one
makes
day,
your life easy.
yeah, one day they'll make it so you can just print it out and wear it, It'll be
Well, I hope not anytime soon because that'll put you out of business.
it will. Well, you evolve, but no, it's really neat. I've got next year's 3D printed design sitting here on my desk, and it's really helpful. People who come in can try them on, see if they like them before we've ever, actually made anything. So it's pretty cool.
Well, I see you have some garments behind you. You're branching out into shirts and hoodies and things of that nature as well.
I think we probably will. Right now we're doing hats, and
Okay.
Marguerite handles all of our hat designs. We have uh, Casey Anderson, who's our tattoo artist, who's a friend, and he's in the office every week. And those two get together and figure out what they're going to draw, and then they just create these hat designs. And the hats have just really been successful. They're very different looking, believe it or not, from other hats, and we feature a lot of little creatures that don't get a lot of press, like the little crabs and, you know, pelicans and, catfish and bluegill and stuff like that, you know, don't get a lot of airtime. And I think people love it. One of our favorite hats, I think, is just a pink hat with a blue crab on it. And people just love it, you know. So our hats have been real successful, and we'll likely build an apparel line around the hat concept for sure.
You should put together a hat with a plate of stone crabs on it.
There you go. Hey, all ideas are welcome for sure.
I'll send some your way.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I definitely appreciate you taking the time to speak to us today. Where can we find you sunglasses?
Well, I would go to our website, bajiosunglasses.com, and there you can buy the glasses right there, or you could find a retailer close by, and we've got over 1,000 retailers nationwide right now, and um, so you can go and buy them there. So we're pretty well distributed at this point, and yeah, we're also in 26 different countries, and so the word's getting out,
You,
spreading far and wide. It's
you've
awesome.
grown pretty quickly.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So go to bajiosunglasses.com, check out the brand, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, and we'll see you again next week.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
My pleasure.